Well, hey, everybody, I'm Holly Tate, SVP of Growth here on the Leader team. And today I'm so excited to be joined by Grace Ann Hector. Grace Ann, thanks for being with us today. You are on the team at the Block Church in Philly. You guys have grown so much, have all different campuses. So I would love to hear from you, your story and the Block Church story.
Yeah, thank you, Holly. It's so awesome to just get to, communicate with you and then hopefully share a story with others that it might help. So we started the Block Church in Philadelphia 7 years ago, and the dream was always multi-site. We wanted to have neighborhood-driven locations because Philly is so driven by neighborhoods. And so we had planned from the onset to multiply. The majority of our launch team were in their 20s and were single. And so a lot of us didn't really know what we were doing, but we were excited and passionate about what God had. And so I was the first staff hire 2 years in. We had about 250 people at our first location. And then we launched from there. So it was just myself and our lead pastor for another 2 years as we were in 2 locations, starting the third. And then we got smarter and put location pastors in place. And then teams really multiplied exponentially from year 3 on, because once a location gets to about 250 people, we multiply. So we now have 6 locations. We'll launch our 7th next year. And so it's just been this wild ride, but it's been so fun.
Oh my goodness. I love what you said there, where you said, we had a really young team where we didn't have a lot of experience to know what we were doing, but we had a lot of passion to carry us through. And I love that, because if anybody's been a part of a startup or a new church plant, I think we've all had that feeling, or like, you know what, we don't know what we're doing, but we're showing up and we're giving our all every day. And now here you guys are about to launch your 7th location, which is just incredible. So with that high growth in multiple locations, there have probably been some leadership challenges along the way. So I would love to hear from you. What have been those biggest leadership challenges that you and your lead pastor have had to figure out along the way?
Yeah, the speed of multiplication is such a gift. I mean, God has breathed on our efforts. Like, we cannot claim any accolades ourselves. God has been so good to us. But with that multiplying in different locations and our central team not being able to be everywhere, so culture drifting and making sure that these leaders who we get maybe 6 to 12 months to prepare with before they go lead themselves, making sure that they're carrying the same values, carrying the same culture, they're leading the same way, because we want every location to feel like the Block Church. And so all of that rises and falls on leaders. All of that has to do with how we're developing them. And so this past year, when we started exploring Leadr, it was really because we were like, we've got so many leaders. We have 75 core volunteer leaders. And we were like, how do we develop everybody? It's so overwhelming, because we're still trying to develop ourselves and figure this out. And so we knew we needed help to keep the culture and to make sure that our leaders were being developed, no matter which location pastor they were under or which neighborhood they were in, that the Block Church flavor was still really evident.
Oh, that's so good. So it sounds like what I love about what you're saying is the problem was not, where do we find these volunteers and these leaders? It was like, okay, we've got a lot of people that are raising their hands saying, I want to be a part of this. I want to help out. I want to be developed as a leader. It was more about, okay, how do we scale this and make it consistent across the organization as we grow? One of the things you said earlier too was we want every location to feel like the Block Church, which is another, what I'm hearing in that is, okay, as we grow, how do we scale that feeling, which all rises and falls on leadership, like you said. So what type of solutions were you looking for when you were thinking about how do we grow at scale? What type of solutions piqued your curiosity?
Yeah, so we earlier this year, we did a lot of work on our leadership pipeline. And I read that book, and we were really talking through our team. Do we have people in the right seat? Are we elevating people who actually want to be leaders? Or are we just elevating passionate people who are good task doers? And so we were able to start seeing, okay, we have some gaps. We have some people filling positions that don't have the right value or skills or time in order to lead at the level that we need them to. And so we started doing this work to see that we had gaps. And everything kept coming back to, okay, we need to develop them. This is every problem that we were having across the board kept coming back to, this is a leadership development problem. So as we're looking at our metrics and, okay, this location is stale, they're not growing, or this location grew so fast and the culture is crazy, like everything just kept pointing back to leadership development. So I was reading a Marcus Buckingham book, and it was just talking about how valuable the one-to-one meetings are. And all of our location pastors are such different personalities, and some are married with kids and some are single. And so how they developed was really different and organic. And we were able to get away with that for a number of years. But then getting to 5 and 6 locations, I realized we needed a system for leadership development that was congruent across the board. And so one-to-one meetings kept coming up in our language. And I was sitting with some of our younger leaders and, okay, talk to me about how do you develop, your volunteers and what are your meetings like? And they were so varied and so different. And so I realized, okay, if we can just find a system we're at least following a similar formula within these one-to-ones, we can accomplish so much and we'll be able to move the ball forward quickly. And so that's why Leadr perked my interest so much, because the whole program is have these great one-to-one meetings. And I immediately was like, I'll be able to give this to a leader no matter what their experience level, or age is like. And there's a really good bone structure to having a valuable one-to-one meeting. And it really just helped us all be on the same page for meetings and development and how we are going about growing these leaders.
So good. So talk to me about your one-on-one meetings. What has life been like post Leadr? You guys have been on the tool for a while now. So what are those one-on-one meetings like now, and the consistency that you're seeing throughout the team?
Leadr has made it easy to do weekly one-to-one meetings, where before that felt so overwhelming, but because there's the shared agenda, it doesn't feel as intimidating for, the supervisor or manager, whatever, to put the agenda. It can be both and they both can see it. What has really made the difference for us, because we're in the Northeast, because we're young and we're hungry and passionate, our meetings were always just about tasks. And did you get this done? And did you get this done? And did you get this done? And having Leadr, having that baseball card where you can see, okay, what is their favorite snack or drink, or what's their personality type? What is their strength? That stays in front of you, where we have really seen our relational equity with each other grow so much. We're able to, hey, check in the private note section where we're like, hey, you mentioned, your mom's going through cancer. How's that? We used to literally forget about that. We would go into the meetings and just, did you get this done? Did you get this done? Did you get this done? Okay, next week, do this. And we were missing so much of that relational just equity that we needed. And so Leadr has transformed that, where we're able to feel like the quality of trust is going up, and then we're getting stuff done in an organized way. Also, like the goals and the development, when you're in the church, when you're in, I think just the Northeast, we're in a very poor city. There's a crisis every week, and those urgent things can just take precedent. And so Leadr has helped us in those one-to-one meetings focus on what's truly important. Are you reaching your goals? Are you becoming a better version of yourself? Are your strengths being strengthened, and not just being about the crisis and the task?
Yes. That's so good. You mentioned earlier, everything rises and falls on leadership, but what we like to say at Leadr is everything rises and falls on relationship, which you just said. It's all about trust. And if we're going into those one-on-one meetings and we're only talking about tactical things, which we have to talk about, I mean, that should definitely be part of the meeting, but if that's all we're talking about, that's going to lead to burnout and exhaustion. So the fact that you guys are able to prioritize care first, and then performance comes out of that, man, that's a game changer. So I'm so glad to hear that it's been helpful to your team as you guys grow to really prioritize that care and development, so that you can then have people that are energized and taking ownership of all of those things that need to get done out of that. That's key. Well, Gracianne, as you are thinking about helping other leaders who are considering Leadr that are watching this video, what would you say? Any advice you would share about people who are thinking about bringing Leadr on to help their team?
Yeah, I think if you are an organization that's serious about helping leaders reach their goals and know who they are as a leader and build that relational equity as well as getting those tasks done, I think Leadr is the tool for you. Everything is so intuitive. It's so easy. It's a beautiful interface. There's so many features that I think when you're in a growing organization, or when you're young and don't quite know what you're doing or figuring things out, the tools that are right there at your fingertips are invaluable. There's learnings that you can assign to somebody if they're like, hey, I want to grow in, holding other leaders accountable. Great. There's a video. Let's assign this. Like, there's so many tools encompassed within Leadr. I think if you do decide to go to Leadr, one of the best things that actually the Leadr staff helped us to do was to start with the top tier leaders before introducing it all the way down. So then those of us that are really responsible for the culture bought into it, got our feet wet, understood how valuable this was before we introduced it all the way through the organization. So it didn't just feel like one more thing we were throwing out at people. It was something we were already invested in, and we're like, you need this because here's how it's transformed my life and my meetings. And then that caught fire so much more beneficially down the line.
It's so true. It all starts at the top. So to have that buy-in and ownership at the top that can just infuse the rest of the organization is critical. Well, Grace Ann, thanks for all that you guys are doing there in Philly at the Block Church, and you and your leadership. Can't wait to see that 7th campus launch and more to come. I know we're so grateful to have you guys on the leaderboard and are just cheering you on as a team. We're so excited to see how Leadr continues to help you guys as you grow. So thanks for sharing your story today.
Thank you so much.